something, you know.
Okay, now, we welcome everyone as we welcome everybody back to the second blot of our Motzi Shabbos marathon. We are holding a little bit ahead on Daf Chaf Amid Aleph, 7 lines from the top of Daf Chaf Amid Aleph. Special request to everybody to please have in mind for my shver. He is in the third day after his chemo, and he is struggling from the effects of chemo. So let's have in mind Abigdar Aryeh ben Rivka. He should have a refuah shalema b'seich shechel Yisrael. Meir ben Chaya Sarah. Mordechai ben Sarah Yehudis. They should all have a refuah shalema b'seich shechel Yisrael. The Nachman, what's your mother's name?
Sarah Bas Yisrael.
We'll learn for Nachman's mother, Sarah Bas Yisrael, and Neshama should have an Aliyah. She should have a Lichtige Gan Eden. So now the Gemara tells us, Tani Chada, we learned in one brisa, Moichra la'aviv, he could sell her to his father, ve'ein moichra libnai, but he can't sell her to his son. V'tanya idach ein moichra loy la'aviv v'loy libnai, can't sell her not to the father and not to the son. So the Gemara says, the brisa that says not to the father and not to the son, that's easy to understand. Bishloima eina moichra loy la'aviv v'loy libnai, not to the father and not to the son, that's simple. That's going according to the Rabbana. The Rabbanan hold that if there's no Tvisas Kiddushin, if there's an Isser Chorus, so that Yud is not possible, so you can't sell because there has to be a possibility of Yud. You could sell to a father, but you can't sell to a son. Timan. Who's it going like? Like Rabbanan, it's not going according to Rabbanan. Like Rabbi Eliezer, and not going according to Rabbi Eliezer. It's not going according to Rabbanan because the Rabbanan say that you can't sell to either of them because there's no Tvias Kedushin. And it's not going according to Rabbi Eliezer because Rabbi Eliezer learns from La'ama that you could sell even to Krivim. So then you would be able to sell to both of them. Says the Gemara La'olam Kirabbanan. But Moed Rabbanan Heicha De'iket Sad Yid. There has to be a possibility of Yid. So when you sell it to a father, so obviously she can't sleep with the father, but she can sleep with the son, because the son is then a uncle, and an uncle she could sleep with. She could be with the uncle. So since the Torah says that either give it to the Adon or give it to the son of the Adon, so in that case, at least there is Yid with the son of the Adon, and therefore it's good. Tan Rabbanan. Begapa Yavai, Begapa Yetze. Now, this means, according to the Tanakama, if Begufay Nichnas, Begufa Yatza. They came in with the body, they leave with the body, which we're going to see means that she doesn't go out if he knocks out her eye or her tooth. Rather, if he knocks out her eye or her tooth, he has to pay for it. So therefore she goes out with her body, meaning that she goes out with the payment for her whole body. Rebbe Eliezer ben Yaakov, this teaches us something else. Yechidi nichnas, yechidi yatza. If he came in alone, then you cannot give him a shifcha kananis. And then he has to leave alone. So the Gemara says, okay, explain to us the two opinions over here. I gave you a scoop a little bit, but now the Gemara is going to explain it. My begufay nichnas begufay yatza. Amar Rava loimer sheini yotze barashay evarim ke'eved. She doesn't go out free if you knock out the tips of her limbs, like her eye, her tooth, like an Eved Kanani. Rather, you have to pay for it, and she goes out with her body completely reimbursed. Amalei Abaya, so Abaya says, we don't need that. We learn out that she doesn't go out like other slaves. Says Gemara, if it was there, Havamina, I might think she goes free, and you also reimburse her. But also v'nepek, she should go free too. Kamash Malon, you reimburse her, but she doesn't go free. Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov Aimer, it's teaching us a completely different halacha. What's the halacha it's teaching us? Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov Aimer, it's teaching us that, as we welcome in Yeshua Shmuel Eisman, I think that might be Dante Calderon joining us. The Gemara says, welcome. Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov Aimer, Yechidi Nichnas, Yechidi Yatza. If he came in alone, we can't give him a shifcha kananis. My yechidi yatsa, Amar Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak Hachi Kamer. Yesh lo isho banim. If he has a wife and children, then Rabbi Maisalei shifcha kananis. Then he could be given a shifcha kananis. Ein lo isho banim. If he doesn't have a wife and children, ein Rabbi Maisalei shifcha kananis. Now there's two ideas over here. The first idea is, remember, when he goes out free. When he goes out, he doesn't take his shifcha with him. If he's married, it's not going to be so hard for him to part with the shifcha because he has a wife anyway. If he's not married and you give him a shifcha, it's his only wife and maybe his first wife, he's not going to be able to part with her. Therefore, you can't give it to him. That's one logic. The other logic is, why are we allowed to give him a shifcha kananis? Because when he's sold by Bezdin, the din is that not only do you have to take care of him, you have to take care of his wife and kids. Who's reimbursing you for taking care of his wife and kids? You give him a shivcha and you get the slaves, the children, that's the reimbursement. But if he's not bringing in a wife and kids, you don't need the reimbursement, so then you can't give a shivcha kananis. So those are the two ways of looking at it. Tan Rabbana. And for those that are just joining us, we are holding 6 lines above the white lines on Daf Chaf Amud Aleph, just getting underway and moving at a really nice pace. We have some intricate Gemara, not very intricate, but a little intricate coming up. For this, what a way to start the week heading into Shabbos Slichus, where we want to be at our best output, in Torah and Yerushalayim. No better way to prepare for Rosh Hashanah than to say, Rabbeinu Shalom, I want Tafshin Pei Dalet. By the way, for us it's a really good siman. Tei Shnas Daf, right? Tafshin Pei Dalet is Shnas Daf. Hashem, please give me an untroubled year with Gesund, with good parnasa and sweet shalom bayis, that I should be able to come to the daf every night without fail, with a clear head, with concentration.
I'm sorry, Rabbi. You had said Lola Aviv Velo no, and you said father or uncle. Isn't it his father or his son?
No. In the case of Aviv, he has a right to take her himself, or give her to his son. The son of his father would be her uncle.
Okay, I guess our school says different. He may sell her to neither his father nor his son, and it says meaning the girl's brother. Again,
there is a mandiyama that says you could sell her to the father. Why can you sell her to the father? So the Gemara is explaining, you could sell her to the father because even though when you sell her to your father, she cannot live with him, but another part of Yid is to give her to either him or his son. When he gives her to his son, That's her uncle.
Okay. Okay.
Now,
Rabbi, sorry, can I ask you a question? Isn't there a moral question about the Shifra Cananis with the Eved when he has a wife and children? Why it could potentially ruin that marriage with his wife. Why is it so simple to give him a Shifra Cananis?
well, first of all, you have to understand that he is a criminal. We could incarcerate him and put him in jail and let him rot for 6 years. That would not do very good for his marriage. Instead, the Torah is giving him a wholesome environment and somebody to take care of his wife and children. But that person has to be reimbursed. So the Torah says this is the way to reimburse him.
So the wife has to be the bigger person in this whole situation to be able.
Well,
to...
also you have to remember you're living in a different time where a husband could take six wives.
I understand. Okay, thank you very much.
Now,
6 wives is punishment enough. What does he need 6 years of work for?
anyway, it's very difficult to understand. It just shows us that we cannot comprehend the greatness of the previous generations. That David HaMelech was able to have 16 wives and to satisfy all of them, and that they shouldn't be, jealous. It's a different time and a different ability. We're not even going to get to Shlomo HaMelech's 1,000 wives. But again, Shlomo HaMelech was a different type of a person. And of course, that's why Rabbeinu Gershom put a stop to it. Because already back then, almost 1,000 years ago, people weren't capable to do it anymore. They weren't capable to live with 2 wives in harmony.
Yeah.
Tanu Rabbana. Okay, now we're going to start talking about where the prices go up or go down. This is what I told you. It's a little intricate, so let's... Tanu Rabbana. Nimker b'mana. If, let's say, you sold Sarah to Chatzkel for $100. V'ishbiach v'omad al Masayim. And it went up to 200. Now, when, let's say, in this case, we don't have to be saying it's in the masculine and not in the feminine. So let's say we're talking about a male servant. The same thing would be true by a female, but nimka b'mana. If, let's say, Chatzkel bought let's pick somebody out of the hat. Chatzkel bought Marshall for $100.
You gotta get a new hat.
Marshall, I'm getting one for Yom Tov, maybe.
Good, maybe they'll find Shelley in there, I don't know.
Somehow you always make your way into my hat. I don't know. So Tan Rabbanan, Nimker b'mana. So Chatzkel bought Marshall for 100. Then v'hishbiach, he went up in value. V'amad al Masayim. Now he wants to redeem himself. So let's say he wants to redeem himself. He already worked 3 years. So now he wants to pay the remaining half. Does he have to pay 50 or does he have to pay 100? we calculate from the original price of 100. Shenema mikesef miknasek, from the money of the purchase. Nimkar b'masayim, let's say he was sold for 200, b'hirsev, and he went down in value, v'amad almana, and now he's only worth 100, and he worked already 3 of the 6 years, menayin shein b'chash v'lo yalamana, then he only has to pay 50, Talmud leimer kafi shanav, according to his years. Ainly Ella, that now that's only if Evan Nimkar lo v'kachavim, if he was sold to a guy. So Hoyel v'nigal b'krovim, since he has a lot of rights because relatives could redeem him. Yodei ala tachtoina, the guy has the weaker hand. Nimkar li Yisrael minan. What if he was sold to a yid? Talmud leimer sacher sacher l'gzeira shav. So Amar Abaya offered a challenge to answer questions, and he said, "Areini ki ben Azai b'shuki Tveria." I'm like Ben Azai in the markets of Tveria. You could ask me any question. Amalei Ahumar Rabbanon l'Abaya. So a certain rabbi said to Abaya, "Michtei hani kroi ika l'midrashinu l'kula v'ika l'midrashinu l'chumra." It says in one place mikesem miknasa, and in one place it says kafi shanav. We could also dashin l'chumra that we should always do the bigger price, and be on the side of the owner and not on the side of the Eved. My chazis the darshinu l'kula. Why do we darshan it leniently? Nidrashinu l'chumra, and say that if he goes up in value, then he has to redeem himself at the higher value. Says the Gemara lo yisol kadaita. Why? Because the Torah, we need everybody to mute themselves. Because the Torah makes life lenient for the slave, for Marshall. Detanya ki tov lo ibach. It's good for him with you. Imach b'machel, with what you eat. V'imach b'mishtei, he's with you with food. He's with you with drink. Shaleitei ato eichel pas naki. You can't have nice white bread. V'u eichel pas kiver, and he eats coarse bread. Ata shoyse yayin yoshin, you drink aged wine. V'u shoyse yayin chodesh, you give him fresh wine from the vat. Ata yoshin al gabi muchen, you sleep on down. V'u yoshin al gabi tevin, and he sleeps on straw. Mikan Amru, from there we say, Kalakoina Eved Ivri, whoever buys an Eved Ivri, Kikaina Adoin La'atzmai. It's like buying a master for yourself. Now, by the way, if you remember, we said that this means that if I have Marshall as an Eved Ivri, and I only have one bed, I got to give it to Marshall. So you'll say, why? It just says that he has to get what I get. But if, it's only one bed, maybe I could get it. No.
I get the bed and the hat?
No. I can't sleep in it because kitov lo yimach. It has to be good for him with me. And therefore, if I'm sleeping on a bed, he has to sleep on a bed. So I can't just sleep on a bed. Why can't I say we'll both sleep on the floor? That's midas stone. That's what Taisa says. Midas Stoim is that if it's Zenen of Ezeloi Chaser, if Marshall will benefit and I'm not going to lose, then I can't sleep on the bed. If I can't sleep on the bed, then it would be Midas Stoim for me not to let him sleep on the bed. I'm not losing anything because I can't sleep on it anyway. So then I would have to give him the bed. So that's mamish. I'm getting like a boss. If there's only one air-conditioned room, he gets it. It's an amazing thing. Says to him, well, maybe that's only eating and drinking and sleeping. Because I'm not allowed to cause him tsar. Whole Indian pidyon, but in order to be able to redeem himself, maybe we should be machmer. Nachmer olay. Why? Because why did Marshall get into this pickle in the first place? It's a punishment because of Aveira Gereris Aveira. But Rabbi Yosef ben Chanina, the Tanya Rabbi Yosef ben Chanina, Amabu re'ei kama kasha ofka shel shviyas. Come and see how serious is the dust of shviyas. What happened was, it was the 7th year, and Marshall started doing commerce with Paris of shviyas. Now you're not allowed to do commerce with Paris of shviyas. Adam noisei v'noisei meperis shviyas. If a person does commerce with Paris shviyas, l'saif moicheres metaltlav. He's going to have to sell his silver. Shenemar b'shnat hayovel tashuvu isha achuzasei v'samachlei, and right next to it says b'chi simkeru memker lamisecha. If you sell something to your friend, oikona miyad misecha, buy from your friend. Davar hanikna miyad liyad. It means something that's sold from hand to hand. So if he sold Paris shviyas, first he's going to have to sell his silver. Lo hirgish, he doesn't get it that he's living wrong. L'saif meicher sadaisav, he's going to have to liquidate his fields. Shenema ki yamach achicha, if your brother becomes 4, umachar me'achuzasa, and he sells from his inheritance. Leibas liyada, it won't come yet to his hand. El ad shemeicher es bit beisa, you'll have to sell his house. Shenema ki yimker beis moishev, if you sell a house in Ir Chaima, in a walled city. Now the Gemara says, why does it say in one place loy hirgish, and another place loy basa? Like loy basa means it's just going to continue in a downward spiral. So first it's that he didn't recognize, it leaves it up to him, and then it's just going to continue in a downward spiral. Maishna hasam dama loy hirgish, he doesn't feel it. Or maishna hacha dama loy basa, it's going to just keep on going like this. Says Gemara, because there reaches a point where the person can't notice it anymore. It becomes as if it's permitted. When a person does a sin and repeats it, it becomes as if it's permitted. Really, it becomes permitted? This, by the way, is a scary thing that we try to halt, that we try to put on the screeching brakes in El. Person comes to shul, and you ask him, how was shul this morning? Great! Now what do you mean great? He listened to Kriyas HaTorah, he didn't pay attention to a word of what was said. But he does that all the time. He doesn't realize there's something wrong. He says, great! He davened Shachris, he didn't pay attention to one word in Shemona Esrei. What do you mean great? Great was as he came to shul on time and he davened and he answered Kedusha. He didn't have any kavanah, he hasn't had kavanah in years. So it's nasis like a heter. This, by the way, this is a scary fact of human nature. You could have a person, you ask him, how are things at home? He says, great. He's screaming like a lunatic. But he's screaming like a lunatic for years. It's normal. Normal. Says the Gemara, until he sells his daughter. Now, even though bita is not in this sequence, it's not in this sequence, but it's going to say that he'll lend with ribos. And the Gemara says, better to sell your daughter as a slave than to lend with interest. Hakamash malon nizven inish brate. It's better to sell a daughter v'loy neziv b'rabitza and not to lend with interest. Why? My time a brate migra v'nafka, because eventually her work lessens the loan, lessens the obligation as the time passes, while a loan with interest just keeps on growing more and more unaffordable. A loan with interest just keeps on getting out of your ability. It won't come at Shiloiva Baribis, they'll have to take interest. A loan with interest, a loan of interest. Has to sell himself. And sold to you, not only to you, to a convert, shenem leger, but v'loy leger tzedek, not to a righteous convert, el leger toishiv, to a guy that just accepts not to worship idolatry, shenem leger toishiv, mishpachas ger, that means he'll even be sold to a guy, one who is uprooted, that's that he'll go so low, somebody that's sold to do menial labor for an idol, to take out the trash in front of the idol, to cut wood for the idol, etc. So therefore the Gemara says, since this happened to Marshall because of initial sin, maybe we should act stringently with him and make him redeem himself with a higher price. Says the Gemara, the Torah came back with mercy for Marshall. The Tani Debei Rabbi Yishmael, Hoyel v'Halach Zeh v'Nasa Koimer Lavidus Kechavim. Since this person came and became like a helper for idolatry, maybe we should push the rock after him and let him just rot. So therefore Tanya says, well, we never want to let Marshall rot. Says the Gemara, we don't say that. After he's sold, there should be redemption. One of his brethren should redeem him. Says the Gemara, okay, maybe we redeem him, but we don't make it easy. He shouldn't be assimilated amongst Goyim. We should be stringent and make him be redeemed by the higher price. Since he got into this whole cyclical downfall because he did commerce with Paris of Shvias, there's two psukim. If there are many years left, or if there are a few years left. So it depends if you have to give more, if you have to give less. But the problem is it should say im oid rabbi shonim. What do you mean bashonim? In the years. The chiyei shonim merubas are the big years. V'yei shonim u'atais. Ela nisraba kaspai. If the price is a lot, right? If let's try to mute people here. Okay. Nisraba kaspai, if his price went up, so then mikesa miknasa, we give him a break and say he only has to calculate with the purchase price. Nismad kaspai, if his price went down, kafi shanav, we calculate what's left with the lower price. Says, well, who says it's talking about price going up or price going down? Maybe it's simply where he worked 2 and there's 4 years left, so that means imat b'shanim neisavlei dalid mekesem meknasei ovid dalid. If another way around, then give what's left from the purchase price. Ovid dalid, if he worked 4 apostlei tarte and there's left 2, neisiv tarte kafi shanav, 2 like the years remaining. So the Gemara says, yeah, but our diak was with the word bashonim. My bashonim, and that's what we dash in this rabba kaspai. If his price goes up, bashonim, then mikesa biklasa. We calculate with the lower price of the purchase. Nismad kaspai bashonim. If it becomes less, then kafi shanav. Then we calculate with the lesser price that's left over. Amar Rav Yosef, Darshinu Rav Nachman lahani kroi kisinai. Rav Nachman unraveled and explained the intricacies of these psukim like it was given in Sinai. 2 lines from the beginning of the wide lines on Daf Chafamid Beis. These are long, intricate Gemaras. We're almost coming to the end of what a way to start a new week. A new week which we hope that we should have a lot of Torah output. By the way, I I was floored. When I opened up the computer tonight, I saw that on YouTube I gave a share called Preparing for Rosh Hashanah, and it had already 101 views just on YouTube. There's an interesting shiurim on YouTube if you want to look at it. There's a 4-part series of making a cheshbon hanefesh. There's strategies for last-minute strategies for the new year, preparing for Rosh Hashanah. This week I hope to put on shiurim about slichas, so just check it out. Let's see, Yeshua Shmuel Eisenberg has just joined us, or I think that's Dante Calderon. Okay, says the Gemara, and by the way, we do not have a sponsor for this week's share, this Wednesday night share. Somebody wants to sponsor from out there in the wild blue yonder, 718-916-3100, rmmwsi@aol.com. You can text me.
Just pull it out of the hat. It'll be there.
Now, I don't know, I have a problem with the Hatsfields. Now, Boy Mine Ravuna Bar Chinanam Rav Sheshes. Ever every animker la'oivik kechavim. If a yid was sold to a guy, nigal lechatzayin or einoi nigal lechatzayin, can he be redeemed halfways or not? Let's say he was sold for $6,000, and he wants to give $3,000 to redeem half. So that way he only has to work 3 more years. Can he do that? So you'll say, if he can't do it, let him put the $3,000 in the bank. But it's an afkamina if he goes up in value. So let's see what the Gemara says. Do we say, Gulasai misteach chuza gamar? Do we learn out geula from an ancestral field? Masteach chuza, an ancestral field, einoi nigal lechatzayin. It can't be redeemed in half. Afhainami einoi nigal lechatzayin. Oidilma, the kula amrinan, we say that he could do it if it's a case of leniency, l'chumra lo amrina, but not if stringency. We're going to explain in the Gemara how it could be stringent and how it could be lenient. Amalei, so he said, lav amar tohasam, nimkar kuloi v'lei chetziyai, that he could be sold half, all. You could only sell him all. You can't sell half. Remember we said, if he's worth double the theft, you sell only all of him, you can't sell half of him. Hachanami here too, nigal kulai, he could redeem all v'loi chetzia. Amar Abaya, Abaya says, im tim tzalaimer nigal l'chatzayin. If we would say that he could be redeemed half, mishkachas la l'kula u'l'chumra. There is a time that it's lenient, and there's a time that it's stringent. L'kula. Let's say zavnei b'meya. Let's say you bought Marshall for 100, and Yovlei Chamshin, Marshall gave to buy himself back 50, Palga Dinmei, half of his value. Then v'ashpech v'kam almosen. He went up in value, and now he's worth 200. I amrit nigal lechatzayin. If you say that when he gave 50, he redeemed half of himself, so he already, at the time when he gave 50, he was worth 100. So he already paid for half of himself. Now he's worth 200. So Yovlei Meya, he gives the other half, the nothing. But V'i Amrit Ein Nigal Lechatzayin, he's not redeemed in half. So when he gave 50, that just went into escrow. It didn't count. And now after he worked 3 years, so now he owes 200, his present price. So he only paid 50, which is not half because he can't nigel a chatzon. So now he owes 150. Yov le'mea v'chamshin v'nafik. Says the Gemara, but wait a second. We said that you don't reckon with the new price. You reckon only with the original price. You pay the original price. So either way, you don't pay the 200, you pay the 100. Why should he have to pay 150? We go with the original 100 price. Says the Gemara, going to Oiker v'zil v'Oiker. It's talking about where he was sold for 200. He went down to 100, and then he was sold, then now he's worth 200 again. So if when he went down to 100, he paid 50, and we say you could be nigel chatzon, so that was already half, and he therefore took care of half. Now that he's worth 200, and even though if we calculate with kesef miknasai, he already paid for his half, then he only has to give 100. If he's not nigel chatzon, he paid 50, now he has to pay 150 in order to be redeemed. So that's mishkachas l'kula. Mishkachas l'chumra, we could also see that nigel chatzon works l'chumra. How is that? Zovnei b'masen. You bought him Marshall for 200. So Marshall paid 100, half of his value. Yov meya palga didmei, half of his value. Now the ichsif become almeya. Now he went down in value, and now he's worth 100. So amrit nigel chatzon, that he redeemed himself half. So then when he paid 100, it was half of the 200. So he paid for half of himself. And now that he's worth 100, he has to pay the other half of the 100, which is 50. So Yov le'chamshin, he pays 50 v'nafik. But v'iyomid ein nigel chatzon, when Marshall gave 100, that 100 was put in escrow. Hanach meya pikodininu, Rabbi. It's put in escrow. Now that he goes down to 100, he doesn't have to pay anything. You just take the 100 out of the escrow, Yovlu nihale v'nafik, and he goes free. Now, Boi minei Rav Huna bar Chinina Rav Sheshes. Rav Huna bar Chinina asked of Rav Sheshes. Now we're moving into a new subject. The din is when you sell a house in a walled city. Marshall has a nice house, and he sells it. The din is he could redeem it for a full year. Right? But once he doesn't redeem it after the year, it's nimka lechalutin. It's sold for perpetuity. He loses his rights to buy it back. The question is, can Marshall buy back half? Could he buy back half or ain't nigel chatzon? Do we say gulasei mistei achuza? Mastei achuza ain't a nigeles. It can't be redeemed l'chatzon. This also can't be redeemed half. It says it by a steachus. Amalei midrasha shel Rab Shimon nishma sheloive. That first of all, Marshall could take a loan to get it back. V'goyel and v'goyel l'chatzon. He could redeem half of it. The Tanya im gol yigoel. It says a double lashon. Malamid sheloive v'goyel. He could take a loan and redeem, and v'goyel l'chatzon, and he could redeem half. Amr Shimon Matam. You see, when you sell an ancestral field, at the end it comes back to you. At Yovel it comes back to you. You have a greater strength. If Yovel arrives and you didn't redeem it, he returns to you at Yovel. So therefore, since it's not desperate, because it's going to come back to your family, so in the beginning you're weak, that you can't redeem it in half, and you can't loan to redeem it. However, if you dedicate your field, then at Yovel it doesn't come back to you, it goes to the Kahanim. Makdish Shehura Kaichai, Shemigia Yovel Veloy Nigala, if Yovel comes and he doesn't redeem it, it goes to the Kahanim. Yaitzel the Kahanim be Yovel. So Yafa Kaichai, since it's desperate, because if you don't do it in time, you lose it, so therefore by Marshall also, if he doesn't redeem his house within a year, he loses it for perpetuity. So since his strength is weakened, if the year fills, it's sold for perpetuity. He could borrow and redeem, and he can redeem it for half. We're going to stop over here, Rabbi Yisai, as we get ready to learn the Mishnah Yomis. I was told by Aaron Swade that the labeling of the last Mishnah Yomis was wrong on TorahAnytime.com. We're going to have to get into the hierarchy of TorahAnytime.com to change that. I have no strength to change it myself.
Everybody. What time tomorrow night, Rabbi?
Tomorrow night is 8 o'clock. 8 o'clock. We are now back to 8 o'clock for the season, Rabbi Yisai.
When are you